A man chooses, a slave obeys.
Welcome to the Ethics in Video Games podcast, where we explore issues at the intersection of ethics and video games.
What follows is a series of graphic, interactive scenes that we can't show you.
All right, welcome everybody. Today we have three guests from Kean University in New Jersey ready to talk about women in esports with us. First of all, we have Theresa Lee. Theresa is a returning student in her 40s who majors in environmental science and drones. We're going to need to talk about that. She's the captain of the Hearthstone team. Theresa, welcome to the show. Yeah.
Hi, thank you.
All right. Our second guest is Professor Joe Sarnoski, Kean's Esport Program Director. In addition to gaming, he's a professor of environmental and sustainability sciences at Kean, where he runs their drone piloting and application program. And finally, we have Kelly Williams, Director of Athletics at Kean University. His 28-year career includes both coaching and athletic administrative experiences, including serving as the head men's basketball coach, as the Senior Associate Director of Athletics at the College of New Jersey. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Joe, we want to welcome you, even though we didn't give you the official welcome to the show, right?
Thank you.
Part of the idea is minimally we connect your voice with your name, right? So people have an idea of when you speak. Thank you guys for joining us today. You know, we, as I told you before the show, we often talk to people studying issues like women in esports, but given that Kean University is directly trying to create equity in sports or in esports, which is kind of interesting, whether equity in esports and sports is the same thing. And that's actually something we might throw in at some point because of the difference between esports and traditional sports, which is worth mentioning. So we should get into that. We've invited essentially you guys here to talk about the inequities that occur with women in esports and what you think can be done about it. And of course, what you guys have actually done about it. Right? So we're here to talk about women in esports as an ethical issue. So this assumes that there's some sort of problem or sets of problems with women in esports. So Theresa, let's start with you here as our resident e-athlete. What's been your experience as a woman playing in esports, and what do you think are esports' current problems for women?
So I've been playing video games online since the inception. Like, it's how I've always relaxed, is to play video games. And there's always been, not always, I don't want to use there just generally seems to sometimes be harassment issues that generally happen from male dominated players in this industry towards women. So as a woman who's been doing this a long time, I've just learned to sort of change my avatar and my screen names to like non-gender specific names and things like that, just so that I can play and enjoy and relax without being bothered or harassed or told I wasn't like strong enough to play, or what am I doing because I'm a girl. I mean, yeah, I've been harassed playing chess. So it's not just like it's not even like a specific gaming thing, like, because I'll have played chess or checkers like in an online gaming capacity and been propositioned or other sort of things. It's not one particular game, it's just the online thing, I think.
Right.
Okay.
That's actually probably very good to know. It's not any specific game community that's any worse than any others. It's right. Basically any game community that's online is getting involved in this misogynist behavior.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. It's interesting to hear that one of the things that you do to cope with it is, you know, have an avatar that isn't gendered, right?
Yeah.
Do you also avoid using voice communication?
So I play Hearthstone now, and with Hearthstone itself, there aren't in-game chats. There aren't. There's specific game messages. So like if you want to like antagonize somebody or like call somebody out for a move, through Hearthstone, it's only their in-game generated stuff. So like, yeah, I can't just be like, oh, haha, whatever. Like it has to be like their set responses. So Hearthstone itself is a very safe gaming environment, which is where I've been playing now for the last like 4 years. So
Yeah, that's great.
So notice this is kind of, there's general harassment of women in video games, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we got that part. Now, what happens when you get into actual esports, right? And I guess this could expand, Theresa, if you want to handle that, Joe or Kelly, if you guys want to kind of get into that as well. So now we're getting beyond just, you know, video game competitions. Now we're also in person, right? Now, in some sense, we're also talking about the modernization that could come with these sport athletes, the streaming opportunities, anything connecting to promoting products. You know, what else do you guys see as problems that women specifically face in esports?
That's a fantastic question, and that's something that we've been looking at as well, because as we'll talk about, I'm sure, the movement of esports into an industry and into a much larger system than just playing games online is a important next step in video game production, and women have to have a voice in that. And if we're harassing them out, and we know this from Gamergate, and we know this from the Me Too movement, brought a lot of attention to the harassment in the industry and how women are driven out of the industry. And that's something that we have to, as an industry, make sure we're not doing, because we're losing a lot of talent, and we're losing a lot of good gamers, and we're losing a lot of good ideas by excluding an entire gender, essentially.
Right.
Okay. Right. So notice we're here with you guys representing a college esport teams, or really a range of esport teams. You know, what do you see as the role of college teams in the larger world of esports? And, you know, Kelly or Joe, if you want to hit that one. So notice now we're talking about specifically college teams and what esports are supposed to achieve.
Well, I think for us and then for the university is to make sure that we create a safe and an inclusive environment for our students that are willing to participate, not in just athletics, but also in gaming, that they know that they are going to be treated in a professional and equitable way. So that's one of the areas that we're focusing on and that we're striving, we're trying to attain. But the other part of what I'm hearing and what's slightly changes esports when it relates to universities compared to just the overall industry is that this is one of the few sports in athletics that is co-ed. So these are steps that we're trying to work through. And one of the things that I think we've done a great job and with the support of Joe and Theresa is making sure that we listen and understand what are some of the needs of our students because it is a co-ed sport.
Are there other co-ed sports that at the university that exist that are not esports?
No.
So it's really just esports then.
It's just esports. Yeah. Once again, this is a learning and educational opportunity and for the university to now serve as pioneers within this realm of being able to mesh co-ed athletics within a university setting. So every other sport that we have, they usually have their male and their female version of that particular sport. So once again, to be able to listen and understand so we can better grow as a university, that's another reason why we're excited to be a part of these conversations and being on this platform as well.
All right. So what are you finding as some of these special needs that come about because of the co-edness of it?
Sure. I think the very first thing that we've seen is just making sure that there is a voice on the front end of when we're trying to promote esports, that it's not the wording, that it's not worded and is not presented as if there is a male only opportunity sport. So that's the very first thing, because in all the other sports, that you have men's soccer, women's soccer. But when we now go into the esports arena, we have to continually make sure that our wording and that perception that it's extremely inclusive across the board. So that's the first step across the board. The second step, to be honest with you, is making sure that there is the necessary resources in place for some of our women that are involved with esports, what that may look like. And we talk about logistics of it all. Okay, listen, bathrooms and whatever that setting is within that arena, whatever they may need, we need to get their input so we know that we are consistent with everything that they that they may need or what may come up when you are dealing with the co-ed sport.
Right, right.
When it comes to your CSGO team or your Call of Duty team, your Rocket League team, what are the sort of things that can come up that could alienate women from joining to begin with that you guys are trying to overcome? Maybe Joe, this is something that should go to you.
Yeah, Kelly actually made a great point. And it's something that you used to see way more in the 80s and 90s in video games, is very targeted advertising. And that's something that I've been made aware of and that we very, very much try to avoid. There is no, every flyer that we put out says all takers. We accept all recruits. Everybody who wants to try out for the team is allowed to try out for the team. And we try to make that very obvious on our literature. And because we do have the arena that our teams play at, which is a very, very good thing for us and and I feel for our women in gaming, because it allows us a moderation that you don't get outside of that. When you're playing remotely, it's very easy to be kind of anonymous behind your computer. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you're playing in the arena, there are other people listening. It's going out to Twitch. And there is more of a moderation than you'll get in those more anonymous settings. So the arena really does allow us that opportunity.
So, okay, so far we got inclusive language and essentially everything that is marketing towards getting esports players to begin with. We got this more heavily moderated space where women can feel safer. Is there anything that you do about, the bias against female esports athletes?
It's a tough one because there's no way that we can, I make the announcements in my class. Hey, whoever's a gamer, come in, try out for the team, and that's how we got Theresa. And she said, "Can we do a Hearthstone team?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So we're giving them that opportunity, but. There's, you can't pull people out of what they're doing, and you can't pull people into a sport they've not done necessarily. So without the beginning steps to gaming, we're not going to get women in gaming if they're not entering college already gamers. So that's what we have to do, and that's what Theresa's job is as a role model, giving that idea that women can be in gaming, and that's something we have to have out there more, because until we do, we're not going to get women in gaming.
And this is a similar problem that that non-esports, that physical sports have, right? You want to get women playing sports early, at the same age that boys start playing sports. You want to get girls start playing sports, right? And so that they don't fall behind at that early level, right?
Yeah. And you see it across the board. And as you mentioned, they don't start early. And in my side hobby, I'm a darts player. And you don't see, even though it's the same as video games, there's no difference between men and women in the skill set. And you don't see as many women on the upper levels. And it's because they're not introduced early enough. And that's something we need to do.
Interesting. Though at the college level, right, that's not something that you see as your responsibility to do, except by presenting models for younger women.
Right, but for those of us in the industry, it's something that we should hear. Absolutely, that we need to make games designed for that are more inclusive, even at younger ages.
I want to go back to the kind of question because. This is something that I'm just personally not really clear on. Where do colleges fit into this? Are colleges just another kind of natural place where people can meet and form teams? Are there collegiate leagues that are separate from other kinds of leagues, or do college teams compete against other teams that are non-collegiate teams on the same level? How does it all work? Whoever, Kelly or Joe, whoever of you guys wants to answer that.
It's complicated, but it's very similar to like a basketball team or a football team. We have our conferences and we play teams within our conference. Because college esports is growing and new, we're playing colleges that are literally across the country. We're in New Jersey and we're playing California colleges. We're playing colleges in Louisiana, which you wouldn't do at our level. We're a Division III school. You wouldn't do that. You would only play New Jersey colleges. And that's what I think we're going to grow up to in esports. But right now we play across the board. And not only do we do that, we also do, we try to involve our students in local tournaments. Our Super Smash team will be playing at a local mall against other college students this weekend. So it goes all in a lot of different directions.
And I will just want to add, there's also a level of excitement even from the administrative side of when we discuss esports and the competition and the way how the gaming schedule is set up, because there's throughout the seasons, we have an opportunity to play against bigger universities that we may never be able to touch or cross path with us being a Division III program, that we may compete against the University of Texas esports group. And then for the administrators to see that, or to see that we beat a bigger university in that light, there's another sense of pride and that comes from that, and we're so proud of what's being accomplished. So that's another part from an administrative point of view why we also love the having esports around, because it does broaden our reach across different divisions, and obviously get an opportunity to play against bigger universities.
I want to shift gears now, right? And I want to talk more directly about equality in sports here, right? Or equity in sports, whichever way we want to talk about it. And I guess, Kelly, maybe we should start with you here. How does gender equality work in sports in general in a college? When I say, gender equality in sports, how do you read that? What does that mean to you? Sure. Before we get into esports.
Absolutely. I think the direct answer is just making sure everyone is provided with what they need to succeed. And based upon based upon your particular sport or your need for that particular sport, as from an equity point of view, you just want to make sure that everyone that's a part of that team or that program has everything what they need to be successful, as far as their resources, as far as the opportunities around campus and whatever it may be within that particular wheelhouse.
That's interesting when we talk about of obviously what success is going to mean here. And when we talk about the kind of obstacles involved here, right? And obstacles can come in a variety of ways, some of them involving equipment, right? Issues like that.
And one of the things what we've tried to do from an administrative point of view is listen and kind of understand what are the needs. And a prime example of what we just recently did is making sure that our esports programs have their team sweatshirts, their team gear, their team outfits, very similar to what if it was football or basketball or soccer. So that's what I'm talking about in regards to making sure that everyone has what they need, that they now can promote on campus and walk around. Hey, that person is part of the esports team and program. And that is a unbelievable sell for so many students to have that. And there's a different feel around campus, but that's just showing one small step of our commitment to making sure everything within athletics is being echoed.
And to add to Kelly, he wasn't lying. Like, they do really very much support the program, to the point where I asked for, controllers and keyboards specifically for our program, and adaptive ones as well, to allow more of inclusive gameplay. And they just sit in the game room because all of our students bring their own stuff from home because they get used to it. It's like bringing it, like,
we like our stuff. We like our stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
some organizations and maybe some colleges, this is actually something I'm completely ignorant about, but I thought I'd throw it anyway because I do things like that, have some female only teams, right, for a variety of purposes. And you guys had a discussion about that possibility. What are your thoughts about the role of female only teams in esports?
There's not a need for it. If you're playing Call of Duty and you're sitting at home and you're playing Call of Duty and you're badass, it doesn't matter if you're gendered, what your gender is. You're just badass at it. If you can, score as many points as you can in Rocket League and other things, it doesn't matter what your gender is. And that's what is so great about playing video games, because it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what you are outside of doing this one thing. Like, you can succeed in something in a world that is make-believe or created or whatever it is. And it doesn't matter what you present your gender as. So I don't think there needs to be a specific girls only league, unless it would be just to crush a male only league in order to sort of crush the patriarchy. That would be the only reason why that would be necessary. Because it's not necessary in a sporting sort of term.
And at the same time, that some places do have women's only teams, right? Or women's only competitions, let's say, would be an even kind of bigger one. Women's only teams, because one of the things that hasn't come up is sometimes women complaining about the difficulty of being, let's say, the only woman on an esport team. Or the harassment that they get from other male players on the teams, or sometimes the harassment they get from fans. I don't know if any of that has been a part of your experience at all, and I'm kind of curious about really any of it.
We have, and to go back to your question, as a facility, I'd love a female only sport, and as Theresa said, it's to showcase our female gamers. But with that, to answer your question, it's not something we've had a problem with just yet, because we do have that moderation. Our communication is all done within very recordable situations. So our chats are all on Discord. All the teams talk on Discord. Their voices are recorded in their videos that they review. They have Twitch to broadcast our games, and any interaction is monitored by whoever's running the Twitch that night. And we have banned people in those cases. So we're kind of actively avoiding that. And as we get larger, I'm sure that problem is going to become a much bigger problem. But in the beginning, it's very easy in a small program to be overseeing it and seeing the problem before it comes up.
How big is your esports team?
We have 10 games, 12 teams, and just over 50 student athletes.
Wow, and that's small.
Well, 10 games. I mean,
it's when I say small, I mean we have a production team, and we have a casting team, and we have a social media team, but we don't have the interns yet. We don't have the classes for credits yet. And we don't, and our audience on our Twitch channel and our audience in our arena are generally small. We generally get between 100 and 300 viewers every week, which isn't anything to scoff at. Right. But at the same time, I can watch 100 people at a time. Right. When you get up to, when we're talking a stadium full of people, that's where you're going to get into more issues.
You know, Joe, I'm really curious, because so you guys essentially are setting a certain tone, right, for inclusivity. You're stressing transparency, right? You're putting people in a situation where they know they're moderated. I'm wondering if this is an advantage that college esport teams have over other esport teams, and that if you are going to get gender equity in esports, if this is where we're going to see it first. Because it seems like you guys in some ways have a lot of advantage over traditional esport teams.
That is 100% true. That is truly our advantage, because of that moderation, because the oversight. It is a situation where the Twitch streamers that are streaming their games in a more free setting would have to moderate on their own, and then generally run into that harassment and then have to deal with it on their own. Women in our program would not have to. If Theresa ever got any harassment, we would make sure to take care of that immediately. And that's good that we have the support of the the administration, and we have the freedom to make these decisions quickly.
From the, was it 50 e-athletes that you mentioned?
Yeah.
So how many of these are women?
We have five women, female athletes, and then is our caster, a whole bunch of our casters and employees are also, because to go back to our role as a college esports program, we're Division III. We can't even offer our athletes scholarships to play our games. But what we're going to do is introduce them to an industry. And when they're a business major, when they're a psychology major, and I listened to your environmental sustainability episode, we have environmental science majors. When you're moving into your industry and making the next step, we want you to have a career. We want you to have an option as we move into the next step away from college sports. So that's what our role is. We want to hire as many women as we can to be in that role.
It's interesting that, right, by choosing to have casters, right, obviously you're setting the tone for what the industry looks like, what the sport looks like, right? Even though it sounds like at this point, I mean, 10% of the athletes are women. So I want to kind of follow that up, because you're obviously making an effort to include women here, and yet you're at 10%. And mind you, 10% might be good or bad depending on the situation, right? And depending on maybe the esports involved, because while women play about half of games, or they're half of players, there's also the question of, okay, what percentage of Counter-Strike global offensive players are women, and the same with these other games. Do you do any special outreach to female players? And this to me is an interesting question, because it's one of those equity kind of questions. Do you treat everyone the same, or do you seek out to provide special opportunities for those who often find it harder to make it?
Well, first, we are in an urban community, and we're in an underserved community, and we are, not to advertise, but we're the cheapest four-year university in the state of New Jersey. So we have
which urban community are you guys around?
We are in Union, New Jersey, which is right next to Newark. Yeah. Okay. And so we have a very, very diverse student body. So that gives us a huge advantage to diversity as well. But one of the things that helped us a lot when we were starting the program was our esports club had been established a couple of years before, and it was run by a female president who couldn't be here today, but she ran the program. And so we had a female leader that gave a good representation of what you were going to get into when you were going to get into esports at our university. So the casters that came with her and the arena workers that I've hired were all kind of led there from that system. So we had a big advantage coming in that direction. That I think gives a kind of an indication of how this could happen, is that you accelerate those women in those positions, and then then I didn't do any work, and they did the work for me by bringing in students. And to answer your question, I have a much higher percentage of women in our games, in our program, than in almost any others.
Oh, that's interesting. So wait, so you mean compared to the average college esport teams, your percentages are much higher? That's the idea?
I believe the averages, when you look around, are 2 to 5%.
Wow, that is super low.
Yeah.
Right? All of a sudden, 10% looks amazing. Right?
Yeah, I know, it's kind of shameful.
Though it's interesting, right? This idea of, because I mentioned the idea of outreach, right? And you didn't really talk about outreach. You talked about, hey, look, we are setting a model, right? That involves, our Shout out, by the way, to Victoria, who didn't make it today because she was out sick. We would have loved to have heard from you, right? But having her as the she is the club president, right? So she's the president of the Esports athletes. Having that as a woman, right, sends out signals. Having casters that are female sends out signals, and essentially you're expecting in return, right, women to show up.
Yeah.
Which is great. What is the end goal of sexual equality in esports look like to you guys? And it may not look like the same thing to all three of you. All right. So I'm just kind of curious. Kelly, maybe we should start with you because you're at the top here. You're at the administration level.
Sure. For me personally, it's another avenue, another lane for women empowerment. Ultimately, that's really what it comes to, because the women that are in our program right now, they're pioneers. They are trailblazers in regards to being able to kind of share and kind of be able to tell the next group of young ladies how to navigate, how to move forward, how to be successful. So for me to be able to have these opportunities and have needs towards and women, and having another lane for them to be to empower, to grow, to better educate not just women, but everybody that's involved with it, is a game changer for us. And I know Victoria is not here, but when this first got started last year with it coming up under athletics, the reality is that Victoria was my go-to person. She was the one that was, suggesting and educating me on what is also going to be needed to get started to make the program as best as possibly can. And then that's when Joe came on board a little bit more, and everyone else came on board. And so for me, it's just about another avenue to show women being empowered and leading and being successful doing it.
I'm kind of curious, Joe, Theresa, if you guys kind of, I don't know, obviously, I think the way Kelly put it is inspiring and worthwhile. But I'm curious if you want to get more specific or anything like that in terms of what sexual equality, the end goal, right? When you're like, we've got sexual equality now.
I'm going to let Theresa speak after this, but I will say, as the director of the esports, my goal is exactly to be represented by our university, and that's, you look at the number of women to male to female ratio. You look at the race, the genders, everything. We are blind behind those computer screens. I want, when I walk into the room, that room to represent exactly what's at the university. That's what equality should be. Because again, there are no skill sets that exclude anybody from these things. So that should represent us exactly.
Interesting. Let me get back to that. Theresa, did you want to add anything?
I mean,
here?
Equality for me in esports would be being able to have a screen name where I don't get harassed, and an avatar that I can make as girly or whatever I want it to be without having to think about it. Like, I just want to be able to play my game and do my thing without there being issues. That's what equality looks like, just being able to do what I do. And so when the whole community comes around and with something like esports where I can just be myself and just do whatever I want, that's a really great opportunity and something to move and build on.
Yeah, interesting. So notice we have I always think equality is really complicated, and I think most people think equality is complicated, but in some sense, I mean, you can see how I just want to be able to be who I want to be is a very, very straightforward. Equality here might look to you like everybody can just be who they want to be, right? Which in some sense means that everybody's being treated the same by your fans, by other teammates, etc. Though there is also this idea, Joe, of the team eventually also representing the community, right? Which is in some sense a little bit different, right? Where the community might not have the same, the same interest that would drive them representationally, right? To be a part of the team, to be like the team, right? Whether that's by sex or gender or race or ethnicity or anything else. There's also another kind of another kind of possibility that everybody that wants to do it can have the same chances of success, right? Is another kind of way to think about where you want to go here. A lot of people hope that those three things will kind of line up, right? And that's for a lot of people the dream, right? That you treat everybody the same and everybody also has the same chances of success, right? But it often doesn't work that way, right? Because
Joe's shaking his head no.
So Joe, what are you thinking here?
No, but it's the problem we run into in every aspect of our teaching and every aspect of our gaming and why do people go towards basketball or baseball it's often because of availability and things like that and that is one of our big issues. Again, we're in an urban community. Not everybody had access to those gaming computers that are required to get into this system. So we are working from a difficult point to get to that point of equality. So pushing those, and we're trying to do this as well. We're trying to allow high schools to come in and use our arena, local schools to come in. We just had the high school state championship. And I want that to be more of that system for us to be leaders in that regard. And maybe when we have that extra computer, giving that extra computer to a program that can afford that computer so that we can have that feeder system, not just to make us successful, but to make us more diverse and equitable.
That's great. Yeah.
Mhm.
Areas that we included when we created this arena, and Joe will tell you that when we talk about giving these opportunities, is that we also offer recreational hours for individuals that may not have access to a computer or something along those lines. So the same way how on every campus there's some sort of form of intramural or rec basketball or rec soccer, we also give students that want to come into a portion of that arena every day between 12 and 6 p.m. or 12 and 5 p.m. an opportunity to play on some of the same practice, on some of those same, some of those same consoles. So now, once again, now they can maybe get better. And now in another year or two, they now can, be in position to see if they can make one of the teams.
Yeah, that's great. It's really interesting since you're talking about feeder schools. One might say if you want to encourage more women to, be in esports, a possibility is to contact schools that, would be, female only schools or something like that, or traditional female only schools. Does that happen? And honestly, I really don't know. I mean, my brother lives in New Jersey, not too far away from you guys, but I really don't know much about what's around and whether these are possibilities. And we're just kind of exploring the issue.
I'm not actually sure about any. We do try to recruit. I'm not actually sure if there's any female-only universities. And one of our problems with recruitment right now is you try to recruit with esports, and that's male-dominated. So when, as a professor, I just, encourage my education majors to go out and talk more about esports in their classrooms so that they can channel them towards us.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just awareness of it.
It's been a fascinating conversation, and it's made me think about how, because I teach in game design, and we're constantly trying to recruit and reach out to more and make the people who work in the game design industry more diverse. Because similarly, the people who play these games are kind of represented by the same people who make these games. And so, this conversation has given me a lot of ideas and a lot of thought about how we could, as an industry or as a school, even like try to get more people, more diverse people into our program.
Okay, final two questions. First of all, what advice would you all give to women who are interested in pursuing esports, either as a career or just in participating, but are concerned about potential barriers or obstacles?
I would say just do it, because there's going to be obstacles and barriers as a woman in any industry and in any sort of capacity. So if this is something that you're passionate about and you are interested and it makes you want to get up every day, then go ahead and do it, because there's no place as a woman where you're just going to be fit in and be fine. We're all going to have to struggle, and we all have to work towards something better, no matter what we're doing.
Yeah, that's
A little sad, but nice.
Yes. Well, it is a little. I mean,
It's the world we live in.
last thing I was going to ask you is, what do you want to leave our listeners with? So I guess let me ask that to Kelly or Joe.
as somebody, as head coach, director, what my job is again to move you forward into your career, and it is upon us in those positions to recognize these inequalities and to actively fight against them. So don't be complacent. Don't just go to the same recruiting places. Don't just go to the same advertising systems that we used to go to, because clearly they have not succeeded. We need to make sure that we keep these ideas of inequality in mind and actively, from our point of power, lift up those people who have been marginalized from the system.
All right. Well said. All right, guys. Sorry. All right, folks.
It's so easy.
It takes a while for us to make these shifts, right? Theresa Lee, Joe Sarnoski, Kelly Williams, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
It was wonderful. I really appreciate you having us.
This was great. Thank you.
All right. Play nice, everybody.
You can subscribe and listen to all of our episodes wherever you listen to podcasts.